Rewritten! Stephen hadn't gotten more than a wink of sleep. He guessed that he should have predicted that, but he had still tried to calm his nerves enough to fall into a dream, whether they turned out to be nightmares or not. He just wanted to rest for once, to just have maybe a 5-minute nap without his problems crashing through the wall to ruin it. Unfortunately, his mind had other ideas, and spent the night fizzing to the brim with paranoia, assumptions, what-ifs, and blown-up ideas of what was to come. White Diamond hated him now. How could he possibly explain to her what had happened? He already did enough damage. What about the rebellion? Were Blue and Yellow able to stop them? If they didn't, were they okay? What was he going to do about his powers? Just never use them again? How could he stop them from activating anyway? You're a diamond. You're dangerous. You can't stop it if you wanted to. How was he going to convince Bluebird not to kill him? How was he going to explain to them, to all of Homeworld, that he meant no harm? Or did he mean harm? What if Bluebird was right and he was uprooting Homeworld into anarchy? Was he the villain in this? How would he know? What was he going to tell the rest of the Crystal Gems? He couldn't let them know about Jasper or White or Bluebird. They'd never forgive him. They'd hate him like White must hate him. They'd disown him. Who would want an uncontrollable Shatterer who doesn't even know what to do with his life? They don't want you. You're a waste of time. You only cause trouble. He wished that he could tell somebody about this. He wished that his dad could be here to listen. But he knew how badly that would affect him. He knew that he had to keep everyone else out of this. This was his problem, his fault, and his burden. Your fault, your fault, your fault. No matter what he tried, he couldn't relax. His thoughts were set on circling through the same unanswerable questions over and over again in an endless, torturous cycle. All of this was caused by his gem. His gem and its stupidly powerful abilities that he didn't even ask for. His hand drifted down over his stomach where it was hidden, the fingers tracing the circular edge, picking at it. All of a sudden, he snapped his arm off, his whole body convulsing in a jump as a flash of white covered his vision, 2 massive talon-like black nails reaching downwards to his gem, reaching. Stephen shot upright, scrambling against the headboard of his bed, gasping as his skin shimmered in a defensive flare of bright pink again. The heat flooding from his gem was sharp and intense, angry at him. "Oh, shut up!" he hissed in a whisper, glaring down at himself. "This is your fault anyway! Stupid thing, there's nobody here! Why are you always so afraid?" He rubbed his stinging eyes with his sleeve, trying to shove the pink glow down. As he did, something crumbled inside of him like a hit animal. He felt it limping away, and with it, the shine went too. He felt guilty now. But his gem was him. It couldn't get offended if he hated himself. Stephen was Stephen. It was only okay for Stephen to hate Stephen. But even as he came to that mentality, he only felt more cold and alone. He sank back down into his bed again, his hand back over his gem, his eyes still prickling distractingly at him. He could still feel the lines of the scar around the pink jewel, the texture rougher in the parts of his skin that were torn whenever it had been brutally yanked from him. He remembered how painful it had been, how he had been bleeding, dying without it. He remembered how it felt to be reunited, to feel whole again, how happy he was to be himself. But now, he had never felt more unhappy being Stephen. "I only want to help," he whispered into the dark, not even knowing which part of him it was. "Why do you hate me?" Stephen was hurting people, badly. He remembered what Bluebird had said before cracking his gem. "Saying that doesn't mean you get out of trouble. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. We all know you meant to shatter her. We all heard what you said, you shattering traitor!" Bluebird was right. It didn't matter how sorry he was. He still did it. And now he was pushing everyone away. The very thing that he was terrified of happening. Stephen had to keep them safe from him, but he had no idea what to do with himself. He didn't know where he was going in life. He had no idea who he was. He didn't have a clue about what he was going to be. He was lost. He wanted help, but he couldn't get it. He was a burden. He couldn't risk hurting everybody just for his own selfish reasons. He was sick of this, sick of everything. He wished he'd stop feeling this way all the time. He wished that he could just be happy for once. He wished that he could stop messing everything up all over again after putting it back together. It was like he was doing it on purpose. Was Yellow right about him? Maybe this was punishment. Maybe he was meant to always be like this, stuck in this cycle, trapped with a gem that he hated. He closed his exhausted eyes. He just wanted to sleep. He was so tired. Please, just leave me alone for once. A moment passed in darkness. Then he opened his eyes again to find himself in a completely new place. It was a pale, soft blue, like the petals of a flower or a cloudless sky. Huh? He stared around, confused at what he was looking at. He could hear wings, thousands of them, rushing towards him, full speed. Stephen turned around to be hit by what seemed like a wall of white butterflies, getting swept off of his feet, hurtled into the sky. They were surrounding him, getting in his eyes, his mouth, his nose, his ears. Millions of white butterflies, every single one of them reflecting terrifying images in their wings, images that he became lost in as he kicked and flailed helplessly. The images were his memories, all of them. Horrifying memories of all the battles that he fought, of all the people who tried to kill him, of all the friends who suffered, of all the times the world almost ended, and it was up to him to save them all, of every single time he nearly died before even reaching his 14th birthday. White's horrible black nails stabbing into the soft skin of his belly, ripping his gem out of him with 3 sharp yanks. He wanted them to go away. Pink light enveloped the butterflies, scaring them, making them dissipate like silvery fish. Hundreds of pink butterfly nets swung and swiped at the delicate insects, trapping some of them. But it seemed like no matter how much the nets trapped, there was always more. They swarmed him, bursting through the net's twine, uncontainable. His gem fought as hard as it could, but they kept slipping around the nets, dodging past them, biting at Stephen. Forever. So Stephen began to squish them instead of trap them. Pink fly swatters started to hit at the butterflies, crushing their tiny white bodies into the ground, letting them splatter and die. Each death sent a howling torrent of a scream through his ears, their pain feeling like it was digging into him like claws. He needed help. He couldn't do this alone. And help was coming. Stephen could see it. The hands of his family were reaching to him past the white cloud, calling his name. But his gem didn't trust them. It was swiping at them, still bent over Stephen to try and shield him, shrieking for them to go away, too. Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, Connie, his dad, Lapis, Peridot, Bismuth, Spinel, Volleyball, the Diamonds. Everybody was being attacked by his gem. "No!" he yelled. "Stop! You're hurting them!" But his gem wouldn't stop. His family was running away from him. Their forms were afraid of him, disgusted by him, angry at him. And they were all running as the fly swatters killed the butterflies. He hated his gem. He felt like that thought crossed his mind every 5 minutes. He hated his gem, its power, its energy. It was the cause of all this. It was killing everything. It was making them run. Stephen didn't call out to them. He didn't make a sound as he crumbled down, feeling weakness dragging against his bones the farther that his family got from him. He wanted them to come back, but he didn't let himself say a thing. His gem wouldn't stop attacking them. He couldn't do that to them. They'd be killed too. And now he was alone. The endless butterflies surging inwards to where he was, overtaking him like a tsunami. Stephen was thrown back into bed. The small, boxy TV was fizzing with static, the sound of butterfly wings battering distantly through the speakers. The windows showed view of an outside world made of nothing but the pale blue petal color, an endless expanse. His eyes were hurting. Stephen had been staring up at the ceiling, the unreleased tears stinging on his face. It felt like a deep, hot stake had been driven through his sockets. He had been too caught up in the rest of the action to pay attention to it until now, but now that he had nothing to distract him, he was beginning to notice the strange pain in his eyes. They felt uncomfortably warm and very, very itchy and watery. Stephen assumed that it was just a piece of dust or something at first, just trying to rub at them to wipe the tears off. He was alone, with the TV echoing its faraway sounds at him. He got up, sweaty with a still racing heart, kneeling down and switching the TV off. The fizzing and flapping wings went away, leaving a reflective black screen that was showing his own face. It was Pink Diamond. No, he was Pink Diamond. The screen cracked. Stephen's eyes flared open for the second time. He was in bed again, the pink light from his skin so bright that it illuminated the room as well as the sun could. The TV was off. It was still nighttime. His eyes were burning. He couldn't resist. He fell off of his bed in a rush, the sheets trailing after him as he leaped over to the TV for the second time. He stared at his reflection in the black screen and froze in horror. His eyes! They were pink, and the pupils were diamond-shaped, just like Pink Diamond's eyes, the same exact shade, the same exact shape. No, Stephen stammered, rubbing at them and looking again. Pink Diamond's eyes stared back at him, terrified and wide. How long had they been like this before he noticed? He tried to remember the last time that he saw his reflection clearly. A day ago, whenever he was in the bathroom, about to go bury the bundle of striped orange shards. They were normal then, right? He had been kind of out of it. But when did this happen? How did he not realize? He didn't like his new eyes. The hatred was white-hot, flooding through him all at once in a spearing jab, his own loathing expression glaring back at him. Stephen didn't like Pink Diamond, his own mom. He had never really come to admit it to himself, but he didn't like any part of the things that she did. She hurt so many people, ruined so many lives, started a war just because she didn't want to talk things out, and then left him to clean it all up. So why were his eyes like that? He didn't want to be her. He didn't want to be anything like her. She was childish and immature and irresponsible and secretive, and she destroyed stuff and had tantrums and ran away from her problems instead of facing them and being truthful with her family. Stephen's whole body felt like it had been slammed through a brick wall. Wait, no. Stephen stepped back, denial trying in vain to push back at his realization. He wasn't like Pink Diamond. No way. He spent his whole life trying to get away from her, trying to fix her mistakes. He would never let himself get that low. But his eyes, they were hers. And now his mind was too. No. Dread filled his voice, hollow and strangled. No. This is another dream. I'm not like her! The TV screen cracked into a spiderwebbed mess, destroying the reflection. Just like Volleyball's eye, just like everything else the Pink had wrecked. A hot, scratching pain shivered from his gem. He was glowing pink, again, his insides throbbing and pumping with raw fear, every heartbeat adding more and more of it, the walls pressing in on him as his throat tightened and his vision blurred. And then he doubled over on the floor, his hands flying up to his mouth to muffle a scream. Pain had erupted from his stomach, setting every atom in his body on fire. His gem, it was hurting badly, hummed with a strange light. It was asking for his help, the message loud and clear in his head, the alarms blaring bright in his eyes. The itching, prickling heat was so intense that he couldn't help but look, even though he was afraid of what he was going to find. He lifted his shirt, holding his breath, and peeked at his gem. The area around the pink jewel was... No! Panic went off like a bomb in his head, and he shoved his shirt back down, staring up at the ceiling in disbelief, biting down on his lip to stop himself from screaming. No, he did not just see... It was just a scab. Maybe the crack did something. It was fine. He was Stephen. Nothing was wrong with his gem. What he saw was a trick of the light. Calm down. You could fix this. You didn't see anything. You're fine. You're not like her. He rambled to himself. Maybe you can heal it? The diamond's essence was trapped in bottles in his bathroom. Anything that wasn't healed by a spit could be healed with that. It was fine. He just needed to go to the bathroom, get the bottles, and heal it. Stephen scrambled to get up, his legs shaking so badly that he fell 3 times before getting to his drawer. The world bent and morphed around him, his skin glowing brighter. His blinding pink hands quivered as he dug through the drawers, throwing items out as he searched for something. He finally found a cheap pair of sunglasses, shoving them on even though they were too small for him. They could hide his eyes. Nobody had to know. Everything was under control. He held his hand over his belly like it was a bleeding wound, gingerly and carefully, the pain a spiky mass of itching heat. It bit at him to hurry as he began to race down the stairs, barely able to coordinate with the disorienting cartwheels that his vision seemed to be doing. He practically fell down the first flight, tumbling and stopping at the corner, running into the opposite wall and panting heavily, trying to stop his own shaking. And then he looked out at the living room, which was full of his family. Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, Spinel, and Volleyball. All of them suspicious, all of them knowing, all of them determined to unlock everything that he never wanted them to know about. He was caught.